The dragon screamed as the spear pierced his wing. And the scream was small, broken, nothing like the roar the stories promised. It sounded like a child choking on fear, and in that sound, something inside the old human finally shattered. The man stood alone at the edge of the ravine, rain soaking through his torn cloak, blood and mud mixed on his boots. His name was Cale Ironword, once a veteran of 3 wars, once called the Shield of the Eastern Marches. Now he was just another discarded soldier, too old to fight, too damaged to forget. His hands shook, not from age, but from memories he could never bury. Below him, tangled in thorn and rock, lay the dragon child. It was small, barely larger than a wolf, its scales dull and cracked. One wing twisted at an impossible angle. Chains of ruined iron dug into its flesh, glowing faintly with curse magic meant to suppress flame and strength. The hunters had fled, thinking the fall would finish the job. They never stayed to listen. Cale had learned long ago that fear makes men cruel. He had enforced that cruelty himself, following orders, burning villages that kings called necessary sacrifices. He had watched children cry in the same way the dragon now did, thin and desperate, hoping someone would choose not to look away. He should have walked on. That was what the world expected. Instead, Cale climbed down into the ravine. The dragon snapped weakly, teeth scraping air, eyes glowing, faint amber through pain and terror. Cale raised his empty hands, letting his sword fall into the mud behind him. His voice was rough, unused, but steady. "I'm not here to hurt you." The dragon did not understand the words, but it understood the tone. Fear did not vanish, but it wavered. Cale spent the night there, cutting away thorn and stone, snapping the cursed chains with tools meant for siege engines, ignoring the burn of runes that scorched his palms. When dawn came, the dragon still lived. So did Cale, though his hands were blistered raw. He named the dragon Ashen, for the color of his scales and the way his fire flickered like dying embers. Ashen could barely fly. The curse left him weak, his flame unpredictable, his body slow to heal. Dragons were supposed to grow fast, dominate skies, inspire terror. Ashen inspired only pity, and that was more dangerous. Pity led to Cage's experiments and execution blocks. Cale took him north, to the ruins of a forgotten watchtower where no banners flew and no kings cared. There, they survived together. Cale hunted, cooked, and trained, not with kindness alone, but with discipline. "Fear keeps you alive," Cale told him, again and again, "but strength lets you choose." Ashen learned to walk without limping, then to run. His wing healed crooked, but usable. His fire sputtered, but Cale taught him control, breathing techniques stolen from battlefield medics and monks. When Ashen lost control and burned the tower stones black, Cale did not shout. He made him rebuild the wall, stone by stone. The world did not forget dragons. Whispers spread. A dragon was alive. A dragon was being raised by a human. Kings grew nervous. Priests spoke of prophecy. Soldiers sharpened blades. Ashen grew slowly, painfully aware of how different he was. Other dragons hunted him from the sky, mocking his weakness, calling him cursed. Humans hunted him from the ground, calling him a monster. More than once, Ashen asked, in broken words and shared instincts, why Cale stayed. Cale never answered directly, because the truth was heavy. Because Cale saw in Ashen every child he had failed to save. Because raising a dragon was easier than forgiving himself. The first army came in winter. They burned the forests to flush Ashen out, marched under holy banners, claimed righteousness. Cale fought like a man already dead, traps snapping, arrows flying, old instincts awakening. Ashen fought too, clumsy but determined, shielding Cale with his body when spells rained from the sky. They won, barely. Cale took a blade through the lung. He lay coughing blood into the snow while Ashen howled in panic. fire flaring wildly. Kale grabbed Ashen's snout, forcing eye contact. "Listen to me," he rasped. "This is the lesson. Power without control destroys what you love. Breathe, focus, choose." Ashen did. The fire stopped. Kale lived. The world did not stop coming. Years passed. Ashen grew into a formidable dragon, scarred, asymmetrical, powerful in a way no pure blood ever was. His strength was earned, not given. His fire burned hotter because it burned with purpose. Then came betrayal. A messenger arrived, bearing a white flag and a royal seal. The king offered peace, sanctuary, a place where Ashen could live openly. Kale knew it was a lie the moment he read it, but Ashen believed. He wanted to belong. He wanted the world to stop hunting him. Kale chose wrong. They walked into an ambush. Ballista bolts tore through the sky. Mage nets wrapped Ashen mid-flight, dragging him down. Kale fought, screaming, killing, until a curse blade pierced his spine and dropped him to his knees. Ashen was dragged away, bound, roaring Kale's name in broken human speech. "Don't be afraid," Kale shouted as darkness closed in. "Be strong." That was the last thing Ashen heard. The dungeon smelled of iron and despair. Ashen was chained, bled, studied. The curse returned, deeper, layered by priests who feared what he might become. They told him Kale was dead. They showed him blood-stained armor. Ashen broke inside, at the moment when hope should have died. A guard leaned close and whispered, "He's alive, barely." The execution was public. Kings, nobles, armies gathered to witness the end of the cursed dragon and his human traitor. Ashen was dragged into the arena, weak, bleeding, chained to runes older than kingdoms. Kale was dragged out last, pale, broken, barely standing. The king spoke of order, of fear, of monsters. Kale looked at Ashen and smiled, blood on his teeth. "I told you," he said softly, voice carrying across the arena. "Fear is what they use to control us." Ashen's eyes burned. Kale raised his voice, forcing the world to listen. "But strength," he said, "is what we choose." The executioner's blade fell. Ashen screamed. Something inside him finally broke. Free. Not rage, not resolve. The curses shattered. The chains melted. Ashen's fire erupted. Not wild, but perfect, controlled, white-hot. The arena burned, but only where Ashen willed it to. Soldiers fell. Kings fled. Ashen reached Kale's body, shielding it with his wings. Fire swirling like a storm held on a leash. Kale lived long enough to open his eyes. "You did it," he whispered. Ashen lowered his head, tears hissing into steam. "I was never afraid," Ashen said, "because you taught me how not to be." Kale smiled, and this time, he did not wake. Ashen left the ruins with Kale's body, carried gently in his claws. He buried him in the north, beneath the watchtower they rebuilt together. The world tells many stories about that dragon. They say he is merciless. They say he is unstoppable. They say he is humanity's greatest mistake. They are wrong. Ashen guards borders, destroys tyrants, protects villages that cannot protect themselves. He does not rule. He watches, and when frightened children ask why the dragon does not burn them, Ashen tells them a simple truth. Fear is easy, he says. Strength is choosing something better, and somewhere, in the quiet between flame and sky, the legacy of one broken human lives on.